Yeah, this is Thunder. I want to do a video today on technology. Talk about technology a little bit. I was thinking the other day that technology has really been the problem with what's going on today in our lives. Most people look at technology as though, oh, wow, technology is so great, and look at the advances we've made, and just a whole host of things where people think technology is so great. Well, let me put things into perspective here. I don't think technology is so great, at least not in the last couple of centuries here, and I'll tell you why. I think it's really screwed us up. And the reason being is, okay, so you consider the technological advances, say, in the 1700s, or let's say the 1800s to the 1900s, compared to what happened from the 1900s to now, 2018. Unbelievable. If you think about what kind of inventions were put forth, let's say in the 1800s to 1900s, you don't have a lot of technological advances that you could speak of. Not like after the 1900s. Now, in the 1800s, you had the steam engine. Possibly even before then, the steam engine was invented. You have at the latter part of the 1800s, you have the internal combustion engine. I believe there was cars starting to seep in that time period. You had electricity with Edison, okay. Those are probably the three big things from the whole I know I'm leaving out a lot of small stuff, but the big stuff, from the 1800s to the 1900s, you have those three things: the steam engine, the internal combustion engine, and electricity. And the discovery of oil, which isn't really a technological advance. In the areas of like what we're talking about today with computers, okay. Now, 1900s to 2018. Look at what happened during that time period. This is what happened. We got scores and scores of, like, I think it probably started early on in the 1900s. Let's say the 1920s and 1930s. You had development of the radio tube. You had development of radio, basically, and some other things, let's say telegraph, telephone. First part of the 1900s, this is what you had, but somewhere in there, we went into warp speed, okay? Somewhere, let's say 2/3 of the way through the 1900s, we went into warp speed, and maybe around the middle of the 1900s, well, what did the U.S. develop? It developed the atomic bomb, okay, and which we dropped on Japan. And German scientists were busy little beavers over there during World War II, making all kinds of advances. But when you think about it, when you think about the advances that had happened before the 1900s, and you think about what happened after the 1900s, just in my lifetime, okay, we have gone from, well, let's say when I was a kid, I remember dial-up phones, okay, and radios. and the beginning of television, which was just a little tiny cathode ray tube in a giant box. Nothing like today, okay? And as a pilot, I can also see things, advancements in areas of technology like GPS. I mean, in my lifetime, when I was younger, when I was flying in Hawaii, I remember the GPS unit was probably this big. It was a big, big electronic device that sat on the cockpit panel up there, and you had to do a lot of tweaking with knobs and dials and that kind of thing to get it to work right, okay? And so now, okay, so that since then, GPS has gone from that big box, this big, to a little tiny chip, probably half the size of my fingernail, okay? And phones that used to be dial up and you'd talk to people, even with party lines, okay? You can remember that. You probably don't if you're younger than me. But you actually had to pick up the phone, see if anybody was talking, okay, on the line. And if they were, you politely hung up and waited your turn, okay? So these are the things that were going on in the early part of my life. So since the middle of the 1900s, we've had this exponential warp speed, okay, advancement in technological devices such as like computers and iPhones and wireless microchip, microwave type things, okay. Computers, I mean, who would have thought? I mean, in my day, you had a comic strip called Dick Tracy, okay, and the guy had a little watch where he could communicate like a walkie-talkie type thing, and oh man, we thought that was a big deal, okay. We thought, oh, wow, the future, you know. But after World War II, you had a lot of things that were starting to shift. You had streamlining, you had things like robotics, okay, you had refrigerators as opposed to ice boxes, you had a new kind of washing machine as opposed to the old washing machine, which just had a thing in there that went back, an agitator that went back and forth, okay. Yes, it still had an agitator, but all of a sudden you got all kinds of bells and whistles, okay. And you got bells and whistles, you started seeing things in kitchens like, dishwashers. I'm telling you, people, there's no rhyme or reason as to why, okay, the technology warped, okay. And now here's the point I want to make. Up until that time, okay, let's say 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, people more or less were making progress, but not at warp speed. And so as the progress continued, let's say in the 1800s or whatever, mankind had a chance to catch up, okay, or to not let technology get so far ahead that he couldn't keep up with it. He wouldn't be overwhelmed, okay, with what was happening. But when we went into warp speed, okay, with all these new inventions that supposedly are going to help mankind, we went into overwhelm. In other words, we're living in a society now that is a dystopian, futuristic, out of this world, Twilight Zone type world, okay? I mean, I remember 1984, reading the book 1984 and thinking, wow, when 1984 comes, it's going to be horrific. Well, guess what? We're what? How many years beyond 1984? 35, 40? I don't know. You do the math, but we're in a situation now that makes 1984, the novel by George Orwell, look like play school. Okay. Yes, we still live in houses and we still have electricity coming in on the wires and stuff like that, but this technology that we have had arrive here with computers and cell phones and 5G and just supersonic stuff and weapons and communications. It's way, way beyond, okay, what mankind had a chance to catch up to with his mind, okay? It went warp speed, okay? And this is the point that I'm making here. This is the reason why mankind's so screwed up, okay? Now they say, oh, well, we made technology is good because look at well, they'll pick something like healthcare or something. People live longer, really. If technology went warp speed like it did in certain areas, why didn't it go warp speed in other areas, like the curing of diseases, like diabetes, cancer, heart disease? I got a whole list of diseases that they haven't even touched, supposedly, as far as healing or curing or anything like that. Now, why didn't when we went warp speed there on the other stuff, why didn't we go warp speed on that technology in eradicating all those ailments, okay, that afflict mankind, all right? Hasn't happened, and if, well, maybe it has, but it's just for a select few, okay? Maybe it has. Now, also, you want to think about where did this technology come from? I mean, how is it that all of a sudden man went bingo and discovered how to make put all kinds of information on little tiny chips and make LED screens and all the shit we have today. How did that come about? I mean, are you telling me that mankind just all of a sudden went bingo and he became a super inventor? And one thing led to another. Now, I suspect, okay, and you can call me crazy if you want, but I suspect that there's some kind of intervention here. Maybe alien, okay, maybe alien intervention or some type of intervention that took us out of what I would call the nature reality, okay, the nature reality, and put us into technological reality or virtual reality. That's where we are today. We are in a virtual reality world. The world that we live in is so imbibed or permeated, okay, with electronics, okay, and electronic technology that it's ruined us, okay? People sit around on their ass all day in front of a computer. People sit in stores and restaurants with their iPhone. People would rather be on their iPhone than out in nature, communicating with nature. What has it done to mankind? It's made mankind a bunch of mental couch potatoes. Remember that term, couch potatoes? People sitting around in front of their TV getting fat and eating junk food. So has technology really helped mankind? I don't think so, okay? I think we'd be better off if we still had to talk on a dial-up phone, okay? Here's another thing that technology, I mean, this is encroaching into all kinds of areas, okay? If you think about it, if you really sit back and ponder, you find out that most of our problems of community, see, this is supposed to be good for communication, right? Wrong. I mean, when you call up a store or a place like Amazon or any kind of service company, I don't care, gas and electric or whatever, what do you get? Do you get a person on the other end of the line? No. You get a recording, okay? You get a menu, okay? And it starts off, our menu has been updated to blah-bitty blah blah blah. What they should say is to fuck you over and not really help you. And so you could stay on the phone for 20 minutes just hitting numbers on a menu where it takes you full circle right back down to where you came, and you never get to talk to a person. The only person that you hear is an automated voice, okay? Now in the old days, and I'm saying old days, it ain't that old. Again, technology went warp speed. In the days when I was younger, you could make a phone call and somebody always answered the phone. Somebody always answered the phone, okay? And that's another thing that technology invented, was the voice answering machine. And then from there, it went into automated voice answering machines. And then it went into robotic voices, okay, electronic digital voices. So what happened? What happened was we got a disconnect, okay, from actually talking to people, okay. What does that do? Well, it conditions you to talk to robots, okay. It conditions you to think that it's okay to talk to a robot rather than a real person, and that maybe even if you have personal problems, you could talk to a robot. Matter of fact, they're starting to bring robots into everything now. Like this thing on Amazon called Alexa. And even on your phone. I mean, it's like, I wasn't even aware that it was on my phone until my son told me the other day that you can have a little voice, a little woman's voice on there, and you can tell it what to do. Will you dial up my son? On Amazon, Alexa, what's the best pillow to buy? I mean, it's crazy, okay? And then the technology has also taken over in the area of retail sales, okay? Retail sales are all done through places like Amazon, and Walmart's going the way of Amazon. And you see more and more stores closing down, specialty stores, little places where you could go before and get really nice handmade items. A lot of stores like Sears and Penny's are going to go tits up and real soon here. So then they're going to make it so that you're completely dependent on ordering everything through the computer. Now, I must admit I do that because I live in a rural area, and there's no stores out here. But even when I do order stuff from Amazon, invariably they fuck it up, okay? Or invariably they make life difficult when you're ordering things. You pay for 2-day Prime, and all of a sudden you order something and it says Prime on it, and all of a sudden it isn't 2-day Prime. Oh, well, we can't ship this item 2-day Prime because of blah bitty blah blah blah, and then they give you a bunch of red tape, okay? Which makes life frustrating. What happened to the good old days when people made their own stuff and there was handmade stuff, and there was stuff that was made in America, and there was stuff that was made in a craftsmanship-like manner. I'm talking about furniture and clothes and made in America. What happened when you needed to call somebody and you got a hold of somebody that was in America, okay, not in India, not in Taiwan, not in some faraway place where basically when you talk to them in English, they probably don't even know what the fuck you're talking about, okay? They have trouble just understanding the English language. So whenever you call with a problem anywhere, is it answered by somebody with the company in America? No, it's answered by somebody in India, okay, that doesn't know jack shit about what's going on in America, okay? In fact, they don't even know some of the language. So if you're trying to get a problem solved with an order or anything of that nature, forget it. Forget it. So this is the frustrating part, okay, of what we have become, okay. And then I read a thing by one of my favorite people, Paul Craig Roberts, the other day, who was from probably my generation or a little bit earlier, and he wrote an article entitled "The World That I Lived In Is Fading Away." The last remnants of the world that I lived in is fading away. So it's scary, okay, because the reality that people like myself were used to has slowly faded away, is slowly fading away, and we are going into we are already in a dystopian future, like George Orwell's 1984 and like Huxley's Brave New World, those books that we read back in the 60s and 70s that stood our hair on end, okay? This is the problem, as I see it. Technological advancement that really isn't technological advancement. It's really harmful. And most of this stuff came from, most of the advancements in electronics and all that, I hate to say, but came from, first was in aviation, or first was in the arena of the war, the warmongers, okay? It was in that arena, and then they trickled it down to society. But I'm still scratching my head and trying to figure out how mankind came up with these ideas and inventions so quickly, okay, as to be warp speed, as to be catapulting us into a dystopian future so quickly that it would make your head spin. If you think about it, it makes your head spin. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's like being on a spirited horse, and it's galloping and getting away from you, and you're pulling on the reins going, wait a minute, I don't want to go this fast. That's what is happening, okay, people. And so you have to ponder. You have to ponder and wonder, how is it that, again, and I'll repeat this, that man all of a sudden went bingo and came up with all this stuff in such a short amount of time. You got to wonder, okay? If you guys have any comments on this stuff, I'd be glad to hear it, what your take is on how technology advanced. I'm thinking, sometimes I'm thinking that this stuff had to come from reverse engineering of some kind of alien spacecraft, like it landed in Roswell or some other place, and then you have Area 51 out here in the Nevada desert. You have all these secret places, okay, that, and the Germans were known to do this too during World War II. I mean, hell, they had jets before we did. And then they brought all those German Nazi, okay, scientists over here, war criminals, under Operation Paperclip. So who knows, you know. All I can say is that something went awry, okay, and something was laid on mankind too fast for him to grasp it, okay. Too fast for him to grasp it, and too fast for him to combat any harmful effects, okay, that might come from it. So those are some thoughts that I had about that I just wanted to get on this video, second day of the new year, 2019, January 2nd, 2019. Whew, man, just unbelievable. I'll leave it there today, and any comments, you want to leave any comments about this? I'd be happy to read them and see if anybody else has any perspective on this. Adios.